Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Carriger. I am the founder of Seacoast Paddleboard Club. Really appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to join us for tonight's paddle chat. I hope everyone is healthy and doing well. The goal of these chats is to bring the paddleboard community together here and across the country so we can learn from one another and stay optimistic. For those of you unfamiliar with who Seacoast Paddleboard Club is or are, we are in fact a social club that was formed back in 2015 in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We have just shy of 100 members who actively paddle in New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, and Massachusetts. Our club motto is to get people out on the water, have fun, and give back. So in addition to hosting regular meetup paddles, Seacoast Paddleboard Club hosts regularly charity paddles, beach cleanups, and other activities both on and off water. If you'd like to learn more about Seacoast Paddleboard Club, I would encourage you to check us out at seacoastpaddleboardclub.com or on Instagram or Facebook. Before we get into tonight's presentation, I wanted to take a moment of pause and say thank you to our first responders and essential employees. We have a lot of members of our club that can't be with us tonight because they're on the front lines of this pandemic, so they are in our thoughts and we were thinking about it. Before we jump into tonight, a couple of housekeeping rules. We have a pretty full room tonight, so this webinar is being recorded, and for quality purposes, we put all the participants on mute. If you have a question during Matt's presentation, please use the Q&A feature, and myself or Matt, will be able to answer your question. If you could refrain from asking questions to the end of the presentation, that would be much appreciated. So tonight's webinar, everything you want to know about earning your ACA paddleboard certification, is being presented by Palmariello from Maine Paddling. Matt has been paddling for over 20 years and working in the paddle sports industry just as long. His love of paddling began in the sea kayak on the New Hampshire coast, and over the years have evolved into open canoeing, stand-up paddling, and traveling the coast and across the country. His professional background is in event production, but he's been lucky enough to integrate paddling sports and into his work. He is a SUP instructor, trainer, and with the American Canoe Association, and currently runs a small paddling company in central Maine with the belief that proper training and quality equipment are essential for an unforgettable paddling experience. So with that, I'm excited to turn it over to Matt Palmariello. Matt, welcome.
Hey guys, thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. I think what I was going to do to start off is just to give a quick kind of brief history of the ACA, the American Canoe Association, for those who don't know what the ACA stands for. It's got quite a long history, and I'm just going to quickly hit you where it started and then get right into the modern history and take you away with how stand-up paddleboarding fits into their organization. So the ACA was founded in 1880, so it's quite an old organization. What I think is pretty cool is it really started with about a dozen or so like-minded individuals that really had a love of canoeing, and it was really just a club in the beginning. I mean, really not very different than Seacoast Paddleboard Club. I mean, the same exact model, really. And then, here we go in 2020, and they're the, U.S. governing body for paddle sports, recognized by the USOC. So they've come a long way. One of their milestones that people should know about is that they started developing and creating their curriculum back in 1972. So in 72 and 73, they wrote and launched their canoeing curriculum, which today still has its roots in all of the curriculum that we teach for kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, and every other discipline that they offer, which I think is pretty cool. So the modern history of the ACA really goes back to the early 70s. Today, they're headquartered in Virginia. They are a nonprofit. They have over 30,000 members, over 6,000 instructors in the U.S., and they're not just in the U.S. They have members and instructors in over 20 different countries around the world. Not every country is as lucky as us that we have an organization like this that manages paddle sports for us. And so the ACA curriculum has been adopted by a lot of other countries in different regions around the world. I personally do see instructors coming over from other countries to get trained and to get certified, and then what they'll do oftentimes is they'll take what they learn, they'll take it back to their country, to their business, or to their club, and they'll really just kind of, as we say, spread the gospel, spread the love of paddling everywhere they go, which I think is awesome. So real quickly, so the ACA really stands on kind of 4 focus areas is what they focus on. First is recreation. They do a lot of work with recreation. They work with other organizations like the Coast Guard. They push policy once in a while. They promote, safe paddling. They promote wearing your PFD, kind of knowing before you go, that type of thing. For a lot of beginning paddlers, they don't know that much. They just want to get on the water, and it's not always in the safest manner. So the ACA for recreational paddlers is trying to get people to learn to be safe above everything else. The other area where they put a lot of their time into is competition. And so yearly, they sanction over 4,000 events, not just in the U.S. Again, they're still sanctioning events abroad. They run over 6 national championships each year. And like I said before, they are the national governing body for paddle sports. Stewardship is the third focus area. And so one of the biggest pieces of stewardship that they undergo is for probably about 9 or 10 years now, they've been running what they call the Club Fostered Stewardship Grants, and that's in partnership with LL Bean. And what they do is they offer small grants to clubs nationwide that take the money and host cleanup events on their waterway. So, a club like the Seacoast Paddleboard Club could apply for a CFS grant and take that money and have their members do a cleanup and just kind of promote the healthy use of their waterways. They really want to see paddlers kind of taking responsibility and kind of standing up for the waterways that they enjoy, for themselves and for others, which is great. And then the fourth kind of pillar where they do all their work is education, and that's kind of where I'm going to spend most of my time talking tonight. As the title of the presentation was earning your certification with the ACA. So education is, I think, probably the biggest part of what they do, which is why I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about it tonight. I mentioned it goes back to 1972 with their canoeing curriculum, their original canoeing curriculum. The one thing I really like that I've been involved with a little bit with them is they have something called the SEIC, which is the Safety, Education, and Instructional Council. And what this is it's a board of members and instructors that get together regularly and they review curriculum. So just because a curriculum has been written and delivered, it doesn't mean it can't be adapted, modified, evolved. So they go by every 2 years, they look at every single piece of curriculum they have and they make changes where they need to. They take feedback from their members and instructors and they apply it. And so for a lot of us that have been paddling a long time, we know that the way we teach or the way we do things really changes year to year. And so in the span of, 5 to 10 years, the curriculum we taught in 1995 is way different than what we taught in 2000 because equipment changes. And, the more we do it, the more we realize that there are multiple ways to do things, and especially when it comes to paddle sports. It's not just this is how you do it. So the SEIC, I think they do a great job kind of reviewing curriculum all the time. And so that kind of, I'm going to lead right into stand-up paddleboarding with the ACA. So based on the SEIC, one of their jobs right around 2010 or 2011 was to develop the stand-up paddleboarding educational curriculum that they still deliver today. So right around 2012 is when it launched. And they've changed quite a few things since then. The very first batch of curriculum that came out was heavily based on, their canoeing and kayaking curriculum. For those of us that paddle a lot of different disciplines, I mean, it's clear once you start doing multiple paddling disciplines that they all are very, very similar to each other. If you can control a canoe with one blade, you can control a paddleboard with one blade. Yes, you've got differences with the skeg and the board design and the canoe design, but the concepts are the same. So now they're probably 8-9 years into this curriculum, not only have they adapted it quite a few times over the years and made revisions, but they've also advanced it quite a bit. If you look back to their older curriculum, their sea kayaking curriculum or their open water canoeing curriculum, you generally have 5 levels in each one of those disciplines. And so in stand-up paddleboarding right now, we are up to we're up to 5 levels. We're up to 4 levels right now. Not every curriculum has been developed up to the 5th level because it is still kind of new. It's still being developed. So one thing I wanted to mention is the different levels that the ACA offers with stand-up paddleboarding education. So level 1 and level 2 are generally flat water levels. And that's kind of where I put a lot of my work into, is level 1 and level 2 on flat water. As you get into level 3, 4, and 5, you're splitting up into different disciplines. So the different disciplines for stand-up paddleboarding that the ACA covers, one is surf. And so right now, we only have up to level 3 for surf, and level 4, last I checked, was still under development and was going to roll out, pretty soon. Whitewater, we now have level 3, 4, and actually, level 5 is being launched out right now. It is in the works. It's operating, which is cool. So, and then we have coastal, which is right now at level 3, and level 4 is still under development. Level 4 would be more of advanced coastal, further offshore, bigger winds, bigger waters, things like that. And then the other thing they operate is a yoga endorsement. And an endorsement is slightly different than a level. So if you wanted to get a yoga endorsement, and I see a lot of students that do want to get that, and which is part of the reason some people come to the ACA, you would have to be a level 2 certified instructor, and then you can take I think it's a 1-day course where you can get signed off if you have your level 2 ACA instructor and you have your 2-hour yoga teacher training certificate. Then you can take this 1-day course and get the yoga endorsement, which would basically say that you're certified through the ACA to deliver SUP yoga programs, which is pretty cool. A lot of people are doing that still. So those are the levels. And so for what I do level 1 and level 2. And I'm going to go into this a little bit further in just a few minutes. And the one thing that is a little bit challenging with the ACA is it is a nationwide organization, and oftentimes if you want to take a specific class, like say I had my level 2 certificate and I wanted to go take a level 3 surf, I might not be able to do that in Maine or New Hampshire. I might have to travel to do that. When I did my level 3 surf, I had to go to California. Because there's not a ton of instructor trainers that are offering these all the time. And so oftentimes we do have to, make a couple sacrifices to take a trip to California, right? So I wanted to quickly just go over the hierarchy, not the hierarchy, kind of the different levels of involvement with the ACA. So one, you've got membership. So anybody can become a member of the ACA. You can go right on their website and support them as a nonprofit. They do get a fair amount of their funding through their membership dues and their instructor dues. So anyone can become a member, any paddler or non-paddler. Then you have instructors, and there's quite a few instructors. I think right now we're up to like 6,500 instructors in the U.S., and that's spread out through all the different sports they cover, canoeing, kayaking, rafting, and all that. And then the kind of third level, you have the instructor trainers, and that's what I am. That's what I've been doing for quite a while with the ACA. And then you have the instructor trainer educators. And so the instructor trainers train the instructors, and the instructor trainer educators mentor and train and certify the instructor trainers, okay? And so as you go through these levels, there's a fair amount of ACA certified SUP instructors nationwide. I don't know the exact number, but there is a list on their website. And then as you get into the instructor trainers, there's quite a few less. There's not that many. And so that's why sometimes you have to travel to work with these people. And then the instructor trainer educators, last I looked, there's like 4 or 5. There really aren't that many. Okay, and so what I want to do next is quickly break down the types of courses that you can take and teach as a certified instructor with the ACA. So the first course offering we have are skills courses, and what these are is just skills-based courses. Somebody wants to learn to paddle, and that's what we do. We can teach them how to paddle, and these courses range from 2 hours up to 8 hours, full-day classes or multi-day classes. Then we have skill assessments. So there's a number of people that want to know kind of where they stand on that scale of skills. And so they can take a skill assessment with an instructor. And the instructor can assess their skills, paddle with them, go out and do some drills, and kind of tell them where they fit on that level 1 through 2 flat water, or level 3, 4, or 5 whitewater, or level 3 coastal, and kind of just tell them where they're at. That's not quite as popular in the U.S. In some other countries, they put more of an emphasis on skill assessments. In the U.S., it's not quite as popular. And then we have the instructor certification courses, and that's a lot of what I do. I run, only like 1 or 2 of these a year. And in those courses, you can get trained as an instructor, and then you can get certified as an instructor to teach with the ACA. And so those are the different types of courses. And what I do with the ACA as an instructor trainer, really it's my job to kind of take a candidate. So when you come to one of these courses, you're an instructor candidate. You're definitely not guaranteed a certification. I have to make that really clear when people sign up for these, that just because you take the course doesn't mean you're going to pass. You really do have to earn it, just like Chris said in the title. It's not given away. And so my job really is to make sure people meet the standard that the ACA has set. And so there's generally about 5 different things that I'm looking at when I make these assessments. And the first is personal paddling skills. So if you're going to teach paddleboarding, obviously you got to learn how to paddleboard. Most of the time when we're teaching, we're on the water, so you're on your paddleboard. Once in a while you can teach from the dock, but still you need to be able to do kind of what you're showing people, what you're doing. We assess on teaching skills, and so you can be the best paddler in the world, but if you don't know how to teach and you can't communicate that well, then you're not a very effective instructor. So we try to get people to open up and really try these different things as they're doing these courses. So that's personal paddling skills, teaching skills. We look at leadership. And so part of, controlling a class on the water is being able to lead that class and take control when you need to. We look at safety and rescue ability. So, are you going to be safe with this group? Sometimes you're going to have a group of, up to 8 people in the water all together at once of varying abilities. So you have to be able to lead them, safely and keep control of the group. And then the last thing we look at is technical knowledge. And technical knowledge would be your knowledge of the equipment. So you're looking at, the paddles, the boards, the leash, the fin, the PFD. Do you know what everything does? Can you tell people about it? Because oftentimes you're going to get people in your classes that are trying this for the first or second time, and they often really are having a great time, and they want to go out and buy equipment. So they're always going to ask questions about what board should I buy for this and that, and what paddle should I buy, and where should I get the equipment, and can you explain how this works? And so that's all down to the technical knowledge. And that's quite an important piece too, because even though a board looks simple and doesn't have a lot of moving parts, there's a lot that goes into board design, and so a good instructor will be able to kind of convey that to students, what they're looking for. Okay, so level 1 and 2. Level 1 generally is a minimum of a 16-hour or 2-day course. Level 2 takes more time. That's generally a minimum of a 3-day or a 24-hour course. And those are the minimums. Oftentimes I will run a level 2 at sometimes 4 days, because 3 days is often not enough to cover everything. And I'll go over some of that stuff in a little bit. There's quite a bit involved. What I get questions on a lot is, what is the difference between level 1 and level 2? And so one of the biggest differences between level 1 and level 2, level 1 is really, if you're getting certified as a level 1 instructor, what that means is you are primed to take people from never ever having paddled a paddleboard to getting out there, learning how to safely get on and off the board, how to launch and land the board, how to stand up, how to start paddling. You're probably not going to get into the fine tuning of their, well-developed racing forward stroke, because it's just too early. But your job is ultimately the most important job there is out of all the levels of instructors, because you're giving the people the very first taste of paddleboarding. You're giving them you're kind of, if you give them a great class, they're going to love it forever. And if you give them a poor class, they might not try it again forever. So really, you're the first line of defense to getting them hooked on this sport, right? But the big technical difference between level 1 and level 2 is, at level 2, you must know how to balance and trim that board with footwork. So if you're still locked in your parallel stance, that's a good indicator to me that you're still at level 1. Once you can, cross-step your way back to the tail or back to the middle or to the nose if you need to trim on the move, and you're able to, paddle comfortably in a surf stance or a modified stance without hesitation, that's a good indicator that you're getting up there and you're doing pretty well at level 2. Not only are we looking at, can you paddle in the different stances, and can you move your way efficiently and cleanly, to the front and the back of the board, but also, can you do the strokes that are required on the back of the board, on the tail of the board? Can you do a pivot turn, static or on the move? Can you do a heel side low brace from that, surf stance position? So these are kind of two of the big important pieces for level 2. In addition, level 1 conditions are generally flat water, very little wind, no current, and no waves. So a really protected area, which is what you want for beginning students. At level 2, your students really are expected to know a little bit more. So it might be kind of the second class in their progression of classes. Or it might be someone that's, had a paddleboard, gone out and paddled, 50 times on their own, but has never had any actual professional instruction. So when they go to take a course, they might want to skip that level 1 course and go right to level 2, which is fine, because they have a little bit. They've already kind of gotten down the balance requirements. They've already kind of handled the paddle. What happens a lot, though, and I see this all the time, is you have people that sign up for the level 2 class, and they sometimes think that time on the board is experience, but it's not always a 1-to-1 ratio. So a lot of people have a lot of time on the board, but they've never learned to use the paddle in the proper way, or they've never used the proper body mechanics. So even though they have all that experience they can tell you about, but they still are kind of starting from scratch. And so at level 2, the conditions change. So at level 2, a level 2 course that you run could be in up to 10 knots of wind, 1 to 2 knots of current, and 1 foot waves. So quite a big difference between, level 1 and level 2 condition-wise. Okay, so that kind of breaks down the level 1 and the level 2. I'm not going to get into level 3, 4, or 5 because simply, you can't skip ahead to level 3. You really have to start at level 1 or level 2, and you don't break out into the specifics of whitewater surfing or coastal until you get to level 3, and you can't be eligible for a level 3 until you're at level 2. Okay. One thing I do try to push on everyone, or not push on them, but just kind of help people understand, is that the level 2 skills that we cover in whether it's an instructor teaching a skills course or me running a certification course for level 2 instructor candidates, these really are the foundation skills of stand-up paddleboarding. Everything else is built upon the skills that people learn in level 2. And so when I get into level 3, 4, 5, if I'm on a river or surfing, everything we do, whether it's balance or strokes, it all is based on what we've learned in level 2. So those foundation skills are so important. Okay, and then the one other thing I'll say is that, as certified instructors, that the hardest part really is not always the learning to paddle and meet those paddling standards. Oftentimes what I see is the hardest part is the teaching standards, and finding people or getting people to kind of open up and try new things and be able to develop their teaching style, because it takes a long time to learn how to teach well, because your job really isn't just telling people how to paddle or showing them how to paddle. It's a lot of it is really looking at someone paddling and really quickly in your mind breaking down their skills and their strokes and the way they're paddling and assessing them on the fly, and thinking about, well, what is the 1 or 2 things I can tell them right now that will help them make a big change right away? So what are they doing right? What can we improve? And giving them the right thing to improve upon at the right time is kind of that secret sauce about helping people progress in a really short amount of time. And that really takes some time to develop those skills. So, people often will kind of be a little bit shy when we do these courses, because part of these courses is actually going out and teaching people. And so they're a little hesitant on teaching because they're still kind of new at this sometimes. But what I see is that after people, go out and start teaching, whether it's just teaching friends or teaching for a company or a business, they get really comfortable really quick. And so, once they can get 6 or 8 classes under their belt, they are completely different. They often change kind of everything they deliver and really mix it up, which I think is great, because we need people that teach differently. And that's one thing I will say with the ACA is that as a certified instructor, if you look at 10 different certified instructors, they're all going to teach differently. They're not, how do I say this? They don't have to teach the exact same skills in the exact same order in the exact same way. There is room for interpretation when it comes to teaching. And so developing your paddling style and your teaching style is very important, and that's part of what we do. Let me think. What else can I say? I won't yet get into all of the different skills that we look for and go through in the level 2 course. I think we can maybe take some of the questions and go into that, answer them in the question section. But I will say real quickly, who takes these courses and who gets certified. So I see quite a few people that work for different paddle sports businesses, whether they start their own or they work for a company that's already existing. And a lot of people like to get that certification just so they have that, professional certification under their belt, and it really helps them, improve the curriculum that they deliver to their customers. I'd say probably like 50% are people that are working in the industry or are in some way involved in the industry in an organized fashion. So a lot of club members too, so people like the Seacoast Paddleboard Club, but we get a lot of clubs from other parts of the country where, they paddle a lot, just like SBC, they put, 3 or 4 things on the calendar every week. And so they're not teaching for money, but they're teaching their friends and they're teaching their colleagues all the time, and so they want to be better instructors, and so they'll take these classes. I see quite a few people that are taking them that aren't in a club, aren't working for a business, just have fallen in love with paddleboarding. They get one paddleboard and they go out and doing it. Before you know it, they have half dozen of them. I'm sure there's people in your club that have a quiver of boards already. And so a lot of those people like to introduce their friends, like to introduce their families, just want to become better paddlers. And that's a lot of what we see in these courses as well. I can probably count on my hands, people that I still paddle with that have gone through these courses that have never ever taught. They just want to absorb everything they can and become a better paddler, which great. That's awesome. Every time we have a really well-skilled paddler on the water, that just makes it better for the rest of us. And then, once in a while, I see people that kind of get thrown into these courses. Their job makes them do it. They're lifeguards or something, or they work around, rental facilities. They don't really have that much information or not information. They don't really have that much interest in getting certified. And oftentimes you can see it in their paddling. They're just kind of there because they were thrown there. And like I said earlier, just because you go through the course doesn't mean you walk away with the certification. You really have to do the work. One thing I see quite often, I'll throw this out there too, one thing that happens quite a bit is that, you've got level 1 over here and you've got level 2 over here, and sometimes you get people that are kind of right in the middle, and it's sometimes hard to assess exactly where they're going to be, because again, it's only a 24-hour course, so we don't have too much time with these people. But what I will do a lot is I'll say, you're close to a certification, but you're not quite there. I'm going to put together some sort of action plan for you. You're going to go home for, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, as long as it takes you. If you work on the things that we discussed, and you can come back and prove to me that you've put the work in and you've brought yourself up to that standard, then you can get that certification right then and there. You don't have to retake the course. You don't even have to meet up with me in person. A lot of times we'll do video. Or I work with a lot of other people around the area, and they'll be there with those people, and those people will say, yep, they have improved where they've needed to improve. So if if people don't leave the end of the course with a certification card in their hand, it doesn't mean it was a waste, because they often will get it a couple weeks later. And that's huge for people, because sometimes people they usually don't know where their shortcomings are, and so they need to take the course to kind of get the assessment and figure out where they need to put some practice in. And then I'll tell you that, the one comment I get the absolute most from a lot of the people that go through these courses is, even after the first day, and, oftentimes by the third day, they're just saying, I had no idea that there was this much involved with this course. Like, I thought paddleboarding was easy. And I'm sure, some of your club members have heard this too. They just don't understand that there's so many different strokes that we can do. There's so many different maneuvers that we can do. And there's just so much into just the simple aspect of, your body with your paddle on your board. There's just so much that goes into it. Me personally, I'll give you my quick background with the ACA. So I started paddling about 20 years ago. I got involved with the ACA probably about 18 years ago, and I went for a level 2 or 3, I can't remember, coastal kayaking certification down in Rhode Island. And I thought, like, my skills are great. I'm going to go in, I'm going to rock this 3 days. I'm going to leave with my certification. That's that. And boy, did my world get turned upside down, because I had no clue. Same exact things I hear all the time. I had no idea how much goes into this. And I failed. I did not pass my first course. But I had a really good coach who was really understanding and really gave me a lot of stuff to work on. I went home and I worked on it all. And I kind of vowed at that point, I kind of made a vow to myself, like, all right, well, I'm never going to do this course again until I know for sure this time that I'm going to pass. And since then, that's exactly how I've approached every certification I've gone for. Is just, no doubt, the skills are there, I'm ready. So I tell people that once in a while that, don't always pass, that, it doesn't mean it's the end. You can come back and pick yourself up. All right, Chris, I think maybe let's open it up to some questions at this point before I go into any more details about the actual skills we cover.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a couple questions here. So
Okay.
Cheryl is asking here, I live in Maine and want to take people out on tours, but I was told I need my certified recreational guide. Is that true? And does the ACA cert allow me to do this?
No. So short answer is no. So the state of Maine operates a guide program. And so in the state of Maine, if you're going to lead trips on the water, you need to be a certified Maine guide. And so what she'll have to look into, and I forget where, I think it's I'm not sure which department manages it. It might be Department of Inland Waters and Fishery, or IF&W. Depending on where she's going to lead trips, if she's going to be leading trips on freshwater, she'll need a recreational license. If she's going to lead trips on saltwater or coastal water, she's going to need a sea kayaking license, which has been a little bit of a gray area with stand-up paddleboarding. But they're changing it so it's kind of a sea kayaking and stand-up paddleboarding license. And then if she's going to lead whitewater, she's going to need a whitewater license. So there's a few different guide licenses. And I'll say that they're not easy to get. They're also one of these things you need to work for. There's a lot of knowledge that you'll need, and the ACA certification will give her the paddling skills and the teaching skills, but it will not let her just get signed off on that. She still will have to go through the program with the state. Good question.
Wow. Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Another question here would be, how do the levels differ from the ACA to the WPA levels? So I guess there's a question here, kind of a compare and contrast, if you will.
Sure, and I have to say that I probably can't answer that very well. I've never been involved with the WPA. Unfortunately, I've heard I've heard good things about them. I've personally worked with the ACA and the BCU, which is the British Canoe Union, but I have nothing to do with the WPA, so I'm afraid I can't get that question answered.
Awesome. Not so much a question, but a shout out from Jace. What's up, Matt? Loved your course last year with the Ride Away.
What's up, Jace? Good to see you out there, man. I see you on social media. Jace was one of these guys that came into the course with a ton of experience, and he just rocked out at level 2. He was kind of the model student because he trained before the course, and he kind of went into the course knowing what he'd need to know. And he had a mentor, so the guy that he works for, Mike, has gone through the program too back in 2013, and so I think he probably helped Jace kind of know what to expect.
Nice. And actually, there's a question from Amy in Salisbury here. If you are an experienced paddler, and I think you covered this, Matt, but if you're an experienced paddler, can you test out of level 1 to level 2?
Yeah, the answer is yes. And so what happens is, I think I touched on this. If I run a level 2 course and people aren't quite at level 2, then they can leave with a level 1 certificate and still work towards a level 2 if they're close enough and do the additional work. So yes, people can test out a level 1. Yep. You cannot, however, test out of level 2. 2 is where you need to start. Again, because it is those foundation skills, and then if you wanted to get into 3, 4, and 5 and the other disciplines, you work your way through the program. Good question.
And then there's one other question here from Beth. How long does it take to become an instructor trainer?
So, okay, good question. So generally it's 2 years. And so that's after becoming certified. So if someone got into the program tomorrow and got certified at level 1 or level 2, usually they'll have to teach at that level for 2 years before they're eligible to work towards an instructor trainer position. And to become an instructor trainer, what you would need to do is after you're certified, you'd have to find an instructor trainer or an instructor trainer educator to work with, sort of as a mentor to kind of get you through the process. And when you're ready, you would have to teach one of these courses being shadowed by an instructor trainer educator. And so that is the challenge, because you'd have to find one that you can work with, the geographical challenge really. And once you get to run a course with an instructor trainer educator, they're the ones that can certify you as an instructor trainer. And so some people can do it as little as 2 years, and some people take 3 years, 4 years, depending on how involved they want to get. Also a good question.
Just waiting to see if any other questions come in. Encourage anyone that has a question for Matt to actually use the QA if you have a question. It's been really informative, Matt. This is what's that?
I was going to say, while we're waiting, do you, I don't know if I want to get into this or not, but, you know, I do have the list of strokes that we cover in level 2, if people want to hear it.
Let's go for it.
Okay, so so I mentioned before that level 1 is kind of more of an intro level, getting the newer paddlers in to the sport. At level 2, we greatly build on those skills, and again, they are foundation skills. But what we cover in those courses, and generally the people that pass at level 2 can do most of these strokes when they enter the course. They're not learning them then and there. So we cover all of the turning strokes. So we cover forward sweep, reverse sweep, nose rudders, cross nose rudders. We cover all of the draw strokes. So we cover side draws with in-water recovery and out-of-water recovery. We cover the sculling draw, the nose draw, the cross nose draw, and the side slip. We cover 2 different types of reverse strokes. Keep your board going straight in reverse. We cover a variety of different forward strokes, 3, sometimes 4. We cover low braces, high braces, sculling braces, and heel side braces. And then we cover just the ability to stop quickly under control and do pivot turns both on the move and static. And then one other thing that I like to throw in there, it's not officially on the curriculum, but is the ability to go from kneeling to standing and then back down to kneeling kind of quickly without losing your stride. So keeping your speed while doing that. And the only reason I cover that is because that really is a huge foundation stroke that gets you into whitewater. So when you're in a river, a lot of us know that, you know, the most stable position is going to be down on your knees. And so if you're in that standing position and you want to get to a knee real quick, that is such a good skill to have, to be able to kind of take a big, powerful forward stroke. And then as you're following through that forward stroke, you're dropping right down into a knee. But then can you drop right back or jump right back up into standing and get ready to kind of power through to the next stroke. So that's one I like to throw in there as well. So there's a lot that goes in it. And generally what we do in these 3-day courses is the very first day, we are just doing personal paddling skills. So we're covering all those different strokes. Then we'll usually throw in a video session. So I'll video everyone doing a lot of different strokes. Then we'll hit the land and we'll review it all together, and you get to really work on what I call is you know, developing your critical eye. And so that's the idea of being able to watch people paddle and assess what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and kind of help clean them up really quickly. And so people get to watch each other, which is powerful. If you've never been videoed and watched yourself on video paddling, it's a really powerful tool, because you know, everyone's seen those memes like what I think I'm doing and what I'm really doing, and that's kind of the proof right there. Pretty cool.
We did have someone else chime in here, Matt. Again, you got a lot of fans out there, dude. We got Jeff here. Good to see you, Matt. It's been a minute since the Sagamore Creek days. Great to see you still in the game, and thanks for helping SGC take it to the next level.
Cool. Yeah, Chris, I don't know that you know my background, but I was born and raised in New Hampshire. I lived on the seacoast for a long time. But before I got into paddleboarding, I moved west and ended up in California, and that's where I picked up paddleboarding in probably 2011 or so, 2012. And I'm psyched to be back in New England. You know, 5 years ago, I moved back east to central Maine, and I love it. And so I've only paddleboarded in New Hampshire a couple times. I've got some good friends that are still in the New Hampshire seacoast, and so I've done quite a bit of, you know, paddling just kind of up and down the Rye and the Portsmouth and Kittery coastline. I think my favorite trip by far is the trip out to Braid Boat and around Garish Island. I'm sure you guys have been out there quite a bit, huh?
Yeah, I think there's some fans in this room right now that would agree with you for sure.
I love Braid Boat Harbor. It's so beautiful out there.
Right on. Actually, and speaking of fans, and this room, just kind of looking around, I know there's definitely some surfers here. Could you talk to
Cool.
the surf certification? Because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, sure. So I don't know as much because I don't train in that certification, but I have gone through the level 3 program. I learned quite a bit because my background is not surfing. My background is, kayaking and canoeing. But I have, learned to surf a number of years ago and surfed kayaks for a long time, and then got into board surfing, and then paddleboard surfing, stand-up paddleboard surfing. And so the program is, I think that's about a 3-day program. And again, you have to be level 2 certified first, because they have to know that when you come into level 3, you've already been signed off on that standard. So they know you have the skills to pick up the surfing. I don't know which conditions they teach in, how big the waves are. I know when I did my course in San Diego, it was probably, 3-footers or so. But I learned with a small group. There was only 4 of us, 1 instructor, and he was really knowledgeable. And we did a lot of, and again, you got to remember that these courses are designed to set you up for teaching. And so it wasn't about pulling off big moves on big waves or anything. It was more about, how do I safely take people from never paddled in the surf zone to being able to read a wave and be able to, safely surf it back to shore. And so that was what we focused on. We did a lot of teaching drills. So we did a lot of teaching drills, whether it was just first quickly introducing people into the, the power of the surf, which would be, just jumping in the water with a life jacket on and just swimming through some breakers. And then by the end of the course, we did have a lot of free time to do some surfing towards the end. But what you're doing with the surf instructor certification, a lot of times you are going to be teaching from shore. So you might be standing, knee deep in the surf zone in the soup, and kind of having someone, all right, paddle out, grab a wave, try this. And then as they're coming in, that's when you're assessing their skills, so that when they come back in, you might give them 1 or 2 more things to work on, send them back out. So it's a lot of people management more than anything, really, because as you guys know, the surf zone can get crazy. So I don't know a lot, but I hope that helps a little bit. If you wanted to learn more, you can go to AmericanCanoe.org. AmericanCanoe.org is their website, and when you look at the top, there is a tab for education, and you can go down and look through all of the course curriculums for all of the stand-up paddleboarding programs. Are online in PDF format, and so you can download them, you can look at them, you can print them, you can check them out, and you can look through the course that way.
Awesome. And how can we find you? If anyone has any follow-up questions.
Yeah, so you can hit me up. Probably the best way is just find me on Instagram at Maine Paddling, or Matt Palmariello at Gmail is my email address. So those are the easiest ways to find me.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, and if anyone has any questions, I certainly wouldn't hesitate to reach out. I'll get right back to you.
Right on. I can attest to that. You're definitely quick on the reply, so I appreciate that. It doesn't look like there's any other questions for now. I mean, I think you covered off on a lot of great content and a lot of great information. So, thank you, for taking the time out of your night to be with us and sharing your knowledge for the ACA. It's been killer.
Certainly. And I was telling Chris earlier, unfortunately, all of my programs are canceled for the year, but you can also find the calendar on AmericanCanoe.org, and you can see all the different courses that are being run all around the country.
Right on. And I'll just do a shameless plug for you here. I'm just going to hop you off. So I'm just going to switch screens here for you, Matt, for a second. And so if anyone's looking for Matt, you can find him at mainpaddling.com. So again, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time out. It's been awesome, and I look forward to getting on a water with you sometime in the not too distant future. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I love it. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care.